We are back for another week of Banter from the Bench podcast. This is episode 14, rolling in. Just to tease what we're going to dive into today, we will talk about the final Olympics recap. We are actually going to, I guess you could say, make some predictions on who we think could win the Heisman. And then we'll dive into some preseason notes that we noticed with the first couple weeks for the Bears and first week for everybody else. So let's get ready to roll in, guys.
Sounds great.
Yeah, lots of good stuff to cover this week. We had our first full weekend of NFL football, which we'll definitely get into, and many other things going on in the sports world, in the Chicago sports world. But perhaps the biggest stage of them all closed out over the weekend with the Olympics coming to an end. So, Kev, I'll let you take that away and recap, the end of the Olympics here.
Yeah, honestly, this was kind of an Olympics that was dominated medal-wise by the ladies. I think I saw something along the lines of if we just took the amount of medals that were won by the women of the U.S., they would have finished like third or something like that, which is crazy. So in that fashion, I wanted to talk about the women's basketball team. They have one hell of a streak going on right now. They actually have 61 consecutive wins dating back to 1992 is the last time they lost. So obviously, spoiler alert, with that being said, means they took home the gold. I watched it myself. I actually thought it was kind of cool that both men's and women's faced the same country in the finals. They both faced France in the finals. So
the
kind
home
of cool.
country.
Yeah. So
France made it a good game against the women too. I don't know about you. I didn't watch any of the men's, but that was close. I watched the last few minutes of the women's game, and they were real close there. It was entertaining.
It was a nail biter. I watched it. I watched most of the game. I caught the last three quarters. So props to the women for coming home with a gold medal. Overall, USA really just dominated these Olympics, and typically that's the case, but once in a while we have some really competitive Olympics and some countries come close with the total medal count. But this year...
One thing that I thought was interesting too, I'm sorry to interrupt, but talking on the medal count is women's basketball, USA winning gold, actually that gold medal was able to tie them with China for the Olympic lead. So obviously it was a pretty important one too.
Yeah, so when he says tie them with China, that means total gold medals, not total overall medals. So both countries finished with 12 gold medals, and he's right. That actually ended up tying, and they needed that because that was the last event of the Olympics overall. So they didn't have any other chances after that. So
I'm always right, too, by the way. Never been wrong.
Yeah, until we make predictions. So props to them. Overall medal finish, we already talked about gold medals. USA total medals, 126. China finished with 91. And Great Britain finished with 65, which is notable because France finished just outside of the top three with 64. They were one away from finishing as a top three country. So kind of sucks for them, but overall, it was a fantastic Olympics. I really enjoyed it. That's really all I had as far as Olympics notes. I feel like it got a lot of media, and honestly, we're a little ways past closing now, so a lot of the stories have already gotten out, and a lot of people have talked about them, so I wanted to keep it pretty simple. As far as next topic of conversation for us, we're going to shift to college football here. Me and Sean tasked us with the idea of picking 5 names that we think could win the Heisman Trophy this year. So Sean's names, he picked some really popular ones. He made it really hard for me to come up with 5 more, but I did it. I went through the exercise. Sean, I'll let you go through your top 5 first.
all these are teams that I have faith in that could win a national title or at least be a semifinalist for the most part. So, you know, you don't need to give me shit for these picks. It's just following along with my picks from the week before. But probably the favorite overall, I'd say, this year, Dylan Gabriel. If you've listened to our podcast, you know how I feel about Oregon. If he's the guy leading the team as the QB, so obviously if I think they're going to do that well, that means he's going to do that well. And just, you know, he's just been solid the last couple of years at Oklahoma, thrown for over 3,000 yards both seasons and at least 25 touchdowns both years, and just less than 10 interceptions. So just a guy that gets it done, pretty consistent there. Carson Beck, quarterback from Georgia, I got him. You could argue he's maybe the favorite as well. Last year was his first year as the primary starter for Georgia, where he threw for just under 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I got a thing for guys that throw 6 interceptions as well. That was another point for my choices here. But you know, Carson Beck's probably going to be on the most talented team, you can argue, in college football. So you think his numbers will only get better. And if Georgia competes like everyone expects them to, he could easily win the Heisman there. I'll just rock out my quarterbacks here. Last quarterback I have is Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Guy that kind of came onto the scene a little bit last year. Numbers weren't super special, but people expect big things out of him this year. Last year with Ole Miss, he threw for 3,364 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks. Not bad numbers by any means, but for a Heisman winner, obviously he's going to have to elevate his game a little bit more. I think Ole Miss is going to have a pretty fun team. I think he'll be in the conversation for one of the top quarterbacks to be taken in the NFL draft next year. Obviously, that means he's probably going to be in the conversation for the Heisman too. So definitely another guy I got there. And then another guy I have is Travis Hunter from Colorado. For him, you know, he's playing two ways. He's playing wide receiver and corner, and I think if he'll be solid at corner. That's his specialty. And I think if he puts up pretty good numbers as a wide receiver, I think it's going to be hard for the NCAA to look past a guy playing both ways. So I think that kind of increases his odds to win Heisman. Obviously, health's going to be a factor with him. So it's a matter of, you know, if he can stay healthy and if he can continue to play both ways. And if he can, I think he's got a good shot as well. And then my last one, maybe my most out-of-the-box suggestion, not because he's not very talented or anything like that. This guy's a great player, but position-wise, it's tough to win Heisman. And that's wide receiver Luther Burden from Missouri. He bursted onto the scene last year as a sophomore. Yeah. He had over 1,200 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. He's going back to Missouri, obviously, this year. And I think he's only going to see his production increase. He's pretty much, as far as I know, their whole passing game. So I'm sure they'll be getting those numbers up, and he'll be having another productive year. And you got to respect what he did against SEC opponents last year. So I'm expecting big things out of him again. And you know, if they were to give it to a wide receiver, just a pure wide receiver, I think he's got a good shot to be one of those guys. But again, that's just a tough position. You don't see wide receivers winning the Heisman too much. Usually like quarterbacks or running backs.
Yep, absolutely. These are really good picks. That's why I had a hard time with it. A lot of these guys I wanted to pick myself. But what you notice is a common theme. These are really, really favored contending teams. Now, I went a little bit off the radar with my picks, but when I explain them, I think it'll make a lot of sense. So first and foremost, Sean's favorite pick, I picked Cam Ward from Miami. So look, if I'm going to pick Miami to win the ACC, a big reason why they won the ACC is because of Cam Ward. So he's going to be talked amongst the Heisman Trophy favorites if he's leading a team like Miami to the ACC championship and potentially college football playoff. So I have Cam Ward as one of mine. For a similar reason, Will Howard, quarterback out of Ohio State. Their roster is pretty ridiculous, man. He's got a lot of weapons to go to this year. They already had a nice running back in themselves. They got Quinshon Jenkins, who transferred as well. He's going to have a ton of weapons. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really, really nice season at Ohio State and already had a productive year last year before he transferred there. Another guy I've got is an ACC guy, so I picked a running back, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. This guy is ridiculous. If you've never watched him, you've got to watch some of his highlight tapes because he finished last year with 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. 15 touchdowns. And they were in a pretty pass-heavy offense with Drake May as their quarterback. So for him to be able to do that with Drake May, it's kind of ridiculous. I think they're going to be in a run-heavy offense this year. There's a lot of unknowns with their quarterback. There's a lot of unknowns with their wide receivers. So 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns is ridiculous. I think he's going to have a really nice year this year. Next name, Tedoroya McMillan, a wide receiver out of Arizona. Listen, this is more of just a ride-the-wave pick. He had an insane year last year, especially for a U of A guy. He finished with 90 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns, averaged with 15 yards per reception. Arizona's on fire right now. Again, they're riding the wave, so I'm going to put his name in there for a Heisman finalist. And then the last one, I personally hate this guy. Shedeur Sanders, not a fan of him at all. But the reason I picked him is because I think his dad is going to put him in a position to fill out the stat sheet. He wants him to get drafted. He wants him to get drafted high. The only way to do that is for him to fill out the stat sheet. And then obviously he's got Travis Hunter as a weapon too, so that helps. But I think he's going to fill out the stat sheet solely because his dad's going to make sure of it and potentially have him in the running for the Heisman Trophy. So my last one is Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado.
He's going to run into a brick wall week one. It's unfortunate for him.
Who are they playing?
North Dakota State.
I knew it was one of the two. I had a feeling it was either Akron or North Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good picks. I think Shedeur's he's a good option too. It just all depends on, what Colorado ends up looking like. It's still kind of a little bit of an unknown with them, but speaking of Shedeur, apparently he's going to be a future Cowboy. They are supposedly view him as a legit NFL prospect, I saw the other day.
Man, I'd hate to be a Cowboys fan. That's rough. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of names that rise and fall from the boards too as the season goes on. It happens every single year. There's guys that
There's guys we don't even talk about that'll probably be up there, But I'd say there's probably a good chance the quarterback ends up winning it, just because there's a lot of quarterbacks that have an opportunity to do some damage this year. But yeah, they'll probably we'll probably get one finalist, right? It'll be a couple random guys or something, and you never really know. Sometimes things seem so obvious, but there's always those surprises and people that come out of nowhere. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But next week, I thought it'll be our last homework assignment here. Kids are going back to school, so are we. We're doing assignments around here. We're continuing to learn and grow as a podcast. So for next week, what we'll plan on doing is we're going to look at every single college football game for week one, and we're just going to pick who's going to win. So we're going to do predictions for every single game for week one. So
okay, fair enough.
Prepare yourself or don't.
I'm going to go into it blind, man. I feel like when I go into it prepared, it doesn't end up well. So I'm going to go
a lot of Thursday night games. It'll be fun getting college football season kicked off. So I'm looking forward to going through and getting 100% of the predictions right.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. All right, cool. Let's jump to the NFL. There was a lot going on during the preseason. A lot has happened since the first preseason game, especially with the Vikings. We can talk about that. But what were your takeaways from the first full week of NFL preseason?
So yeah, my main takeaway kind of plays into that a little bit. What a debut for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I can't really think of one that had a bad game. Jaden Daniels played about the least, but he still went 2 of 3 for 50 yards. Obviously, Caleb Williams made his debut. We'll get into that later on. Bo Nix for the Broncos came in as a second string. he looked really good. He played against a little bit of a first team defense, mainly backups, but regardless, you're looking at a guy that should do good against those guys, and he did. So, that was exciting for the Broncos. And then
I will say Drake May, we didn't get to see a whole lot. Yeah, we didn't get to see a whole lot out of him, so he's a TBD. He only went 2 of 3 for 19 yards, but the weather conditions were pretty shitty too, so they were just kind of keeping him healthy.
Yep, and then you had J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings. He went up against the Raiders, and let me get it here. He arguably, I thought, had the best day out of any rookie quarterback. And it was funny because I was watching a little bit of it. Now, I believe he started out with an interception on his first drive. So he had a turnover, and then he turned around and went 11 of 17 for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty damn good, all things considered. Now, we teased it a little bit. I'm sure people are aware of this. Just as his season started, it is over. Torn meniscus, had surgery today. It's Wednesday, he had surgery today, and they officially ruled him out for the year. Kind of unfortunate for Vikings fans, and I guess if you look at it from a positive perspective, at least it happened now and not during the year. So he's still going to be pretty fresh in terms of being a rookie and going up against NFL defenses and not having like that awkward got 2 or 3 starts or half a year under my belt, then got hurt, kind of thing. But still, not something that you want to see for a guy just getting into the NFL. And for Vikings fans, even though they're an enemy in the NFC North here, sucks for them. And I also saw, I think today too, that Jordan Addison maybe got hurt pretty seriously in practice too.
They're saying it's not serious. He did get carted off, so that's what made them think so. But they're saying they don't think it's anything serious. I mean, yeah, they've had a couple other names too get hurt in practice yesterday and today. You never want to see a guy go down, especially a rookie, a good guy like J.J. McCarthy. He's a good kid. I think that you could potentially look back on this as, I hate to even call it a blessing in disguise, but like for him, think about the season he had last season. He ran the table with Michigan, went to the college football playoff, won that, went to the finals, won that, went through the draft process, and then was drafted with the Vikings, started getting ready with training camp with them, played in a game. His body probably needs a damn break, and I think that this will give him that break. I mean, you never want to see a guy out for a year. I don't like that, but I think that this could allow his body to recharge a little bit. We know he's going to be great with his PT. He's going to do what he needs to do to bounce back and take care of his body. But who knows, man? He could come back even stronger. He's already crazy athletic. He's got a good arm. So I'll be curious to see how JJ comes out of this.
Yeah, I think he'll handle it well. From like a mental standpoint, he's pretty well equipped when it comes to that. It's something he takes a lot of pride in. But I think as a competitive athlete that he is, it'll definitely be tough on him to be sitting out for a full year, especially when he's probably antsy to get his NFL career started. It's something that he's been dreaming about since he was a kid, as most players do when they get to the NFL. So that aspect is going to probably be a little bit tougher on him than maybe he realizes at first, but I'm sure he'll be able to handle it well. And medicine and science and procedures and stuff are evolving. So I'm sure he'll be back stronger, like you're saying, and hoping for the best for him after this, and hoping this is the only kind of setback he has to deal with. But you have to wait another year. And I guess for Vikings fans, they're probably not really going to do much this year now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But honestly, having Sam Darnold isn't terrible either. They'll still be watchable, but they're not going to really contend. They could have a significantly worse quarterback than Sam Darnold.
I don't know how much significantly worse, but
he's going to be like an average NFL QB this year.
Yeah, I think he'll be average because he's surrounded by a lot of talent. He's got good wide receivers. He's got a good line. Their running back. Oh, it is the running back from Green Bay, Aaron Jones. So like he's surrounded by talent. But if he wasn't, I think it'd be a rough season. So,
well, we don't got to get into hypotheticals here. This is what he's working with.
it'll be interesting, man. I know I drafted Jay Jettas in one of my fantasy teams, and now I'm like, well, this kind of hurts. So
he'll be fine.
We'll see. As far as the other preseason games, anything? I know you said rookie quarterbacks obviously looked really nice.
Yeah. I'll stick to the theme here. So a couple quarterbacks I noticed that didn't look very nice. Let me pull up some stats here. I think it's the same game. It is.
Not Hendon Hooker, because that boy balled out.
Trey Lance, 25 for 41 with 188 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah.
Less than desirable day, and perhaps the worst performance of all. Stetson Bennett. He went 24 of 38 for 224 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He
had the game-winning drive, dog. He had the game-winning drive.
He dealt with something last year. It's kind of no one really knows exactly what happened, but he was away from the Rams pretty much all year. So I guess you could theoretically say this is like his rookie season. But, I mean, you never like to see 4 interceptions in a game, even if the guy hasn't played a football game in over a year. And then his counterpart, Trey Lance, he's kind of looking at like maybe getting a job, but isn't really doing anything to help himself.
Yeah, at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, like Vikings could have looked at him because he's a local kid from Minnesota, but I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, we got to go make that trade now. Look at what he's doing in the preseason. He's not doing much. So
they still might for depth at this point.
Those were 2 guys I thought that didn't do so hot, but overall, like there were some competitive games. I feel like a lot of games were fairly close, and then obviously you had one of them being us that wasn't so close, but. It was just kind of fun keeping up with everyone, and seemed like a lot of people were playing this weekend, which was also a good thing too.
So I actually have a name that I think is interesting, just given their starting quarterback's injury history. Arizona Cardinals. So Kyler Murray, obviously QB1, but he has gotten injured. He has gotten injured the last 2 years.
No,
Clayton Tune, man.
Okay, thought you were going a different route. I was going to say
not Desmond Ritter.
I was going to say you want to talk about worse than Darnold. He's right there.
Not Desmond Ritter. Clayton Tune finished 15 of 24, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So he had himself a pretty nice day. Shameless
he's been there
plug.
For a bit, huh?
I think he's been a pro. Years. I think this will be his 3rd year now. No, he was drafted in 2023. So this is only going on year 2.
Tulane?
Clayton
no,
Tune,
he's
Houston.
I was going to say it wasn't Tulane.
Yeah. Also, James Robinson from the Illinois State University got some playing time with the Saints. So, shout out James Robinson. I'm not going to let that go.
Forgot he was in the league.
I'm sure you did. I didn't really have too much more to add here. I mean, it's the preseason, so you kind of get a mixed bag of who's playing. Michael Penix had some really nice throws.
Oh, yeah, he looked good too.
9 of 16, 104 yards. And then I think he also ran. Oh, no, he didn't run. There was another quarterback that had some rushing stats. Yeah. Spencer Rattler, which we don't even talk about.
I can pull that up here. I got it right here. Let's see. Spencer Rattler against the Arizona Cardinals. A little homecoming game for him. Right into his NFL career, he gets a homecoming game. Look at that. 9 of 17 for 70 yards passing. And then, what's that? Rushing. 2 carries for 8 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah. So it was okay. Nothing crazy. What I thought was pretty interesting, backup quarterback Kenny Pickett had himself a pretty nice game for the Eagles. He went 14 of 22 with a touchdown, no interceptions. Obviously, he's not going to compete for the starting job, but for him to put together some consistency like that, I think was pretty nice.
Justin Fields played.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't really look very good. He fumbled a couple times.
Yep. He's 5 of 6, 67 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 2 sacks for 15 yards, which is pretty bad considering his speed. Yeah, less than ideal day for Justin Fields out there. 2 fumbles, only one of them were recovered. So, yeah, I mean, this is what you get with the preseason. You know, it's going to be a mixed bag. The Bears fucking dominating. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. They won 33-6 against against the Bills. There were some names that I liked there. We'll save that for the Chicago coverage. We can talk about the Bears preseason game then. But did you have anything else you wanted to add before we talk about the trade that literally just went down like an hour ago?
Yeah. Anything you're looking forward to this upcoming week in the preseason? You want to make some picks? Want to have some fun? We don't even know who's playing.
No, I heard the Bears might not even play their starters this week.
Eagles, Patriots, Thursday night.
Oh, I'm taking Eagles.
I was going to say I got Pats. Falcons, okay. Ravens, I'll take Baltimore.
I'll take the Falcons.
Bears, Bengals, I'll take the Bears.
Bears, baby.
Giants, Texans, I'll go with Texans.
Yeah, I'll say Texans too.
Lions, Chiefs, I'm going to go Detroit.
Detroit, baby. Hernan Hooker.
Vikings, Browns. I got Vikings coming out and making a statement game showing they are not missing a beat.
Browns.
Jets, Panthers. Ooh, I'll go Jets.
Oh, that one's pretty rough. I'll say Jets too. I think they have more depth.
Cardinals, Colts. I will go with the Colts.
I'll say the Cardinals because I like the way Clayton Tune played.
Commanders and Dolphins. I'll say Commanders. I'm guessing Daniels will get a little bit longer of a run there.
I think so too.
Bills, Steelers. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh.
I will too. I think Justin Fields will have a bounce back game.
Seahawks and Titans. Will Levis is coming off having Mayo Cologne released, so I think that's going to translate into a monster game on the field. So I'm going with the Titans.
Dude, I don't even know who. Oh, Seattle has Sam Howell as their backup. I'll say Seattle.
Yep. Rams, Chargers. I'll go with Chargers.
I will say, yeah, I'll say Chargers. Stetson Bennett looked awful.
Buccaneers, Jaguars. I'll go Jags.
I'll go Jags because Kyle Trask is the Bucs backup, and I don't like him.
Yeah, he's the best. Cowboys and Raiders. I'm going to go Raider Nation.
Raiders. Trey Lance is trash.
Packers, Broncos, Denver. I'm going Denver.
It depends on how much Bo Nix plays. I will say...
Doesn't matter. Broncos by $1 billion.
I'll say Broncos.
And then last one is, we get a little Sunday night football. Saints and 49ers. I'm gonna say Spencer Rattler has a little bit of fun on Sunday night, and I'm gonna go with the Saints.
Do we know who the 49ers backup quarterback is? Let's see.
Yeah, it's Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs. They've got Brandon Allen. All right, I'll take San Francisco. Honestly, maybe Ayuk might get some playing time if they get this deal done. So I'll take San Francisco.
All righty. So there it is, folks.
For whatever.
Lots of good picks here. You know, if you're thinking about gambling on preseason games, do not take our advice. We're not gambling experts. No. We're just here to have fun. I can't even gamble, so don't take my advice.
All 2 of you listeners, don't gamble on the games that we pick. All right, let's talk about the trade that just went down. We've got Matthew Judon was traded to the Falcons for a 3rd-round pick. Do you think they overpaid, underpaid? Do you think that's about right? What are your thoughts?
Hard to judge it right now because the whole question mark with Judon is what's this going to lead to? Is it going to be a contract extension? Is it going to be a rental? I'd guess they probably get a deal done. I would think they maybe wouldn't make this trade without getting one done. But good deal for Falcons. They obviously took Michael Penix in the 1st round of the draft, and a lot of people ripped them for not doing like Dallas Turner or Latu from UCLA because they desperately needed some pass rushing. Well, it turns out they got their pass rusher, and they got a proven guy. So obviously, you'll always look to get a proven guy if you can in situations, and they were able to capitalize on Judon not being happy in New England, and were able to strike there. So I think, if they're able to get a contract extension done with him, I think that's pretty good value, giving up a third round pick for him. If not, maybe a little hefty, I guess, for a disgruntled player. If they maybe waited it out a little bit, could have got maybe a little bit less value for him. But all in all, a move that was needed for Atlanta, and kind of a surprise, I guess. Didn't really seem like they were a team that was brought up much when looking at potential options for Judon.
Yeah, I think this is their way of saying we lost the Montez Sweat trade and we still need a guy. And Judon is obviously
played for the Commanders, so that's two different teams.
No, I know, but they still wanted him. They wanted Montez Sweat. So since they didn't get Montez Sweat, yes, thank you, Sean. So since they didn't,
sure. I don't want you spreading fake news over here.
Since they didn't get Montez Sweat, I think that this is their way of saying, we'll go after a guy like Matthew Judon. He's already on their depth chart. That's kind of funny. But they've already got a really nice piece on their line with Grady Jarrett. I think that Matthew Judon's just a plug and play type of guy. I think they will sign him to an extension because I can't imagine, like you said, they would do this trade unless they knew that an extension was possible. So really nice piece for them. We'll see how it transitions with their defensive scheme. I think they're 3-4 defense. So we'll see how that transitions for their 3-4 defense and what it looks like moving forward. But I'm sure he's probably happy because he's been requesting a trade for a while. Did you just see the news of the season tickets?
No, I was laughing because Juan Soto just hit a home run against the White Sox. He had 3 last night and just hit another one in his first at bat tonight. So I got a good little chuckle about that. But I have him on my fantasy team, so
I do too.
I also had Nestor Cortez, so got a good outing from him yesterday too.
That's a win-win. All right, guys. Well, here we're going to jump to Chicago topics. That's it for national stories. Not a whole lot going on right now with preseason happening. As baseball playoffs start to gear up here in the next month and a half, we will obviously have plenty more to cover, but let's talk Chicago topics. I think the best place to start, we were just talking about NFL. Let's pick up where we left off. Let's talk about the Bears win over the Bills, 33-6 in their second preseason game. What did you notice? What stood out to you?
Undefeated. That's what stood out to me, baby. Every great Super Bowl run starts with being on Hard Knocks and being undefeated in the preseason. That's the Super Bowl DVD is starting itself. And yes, it's going to be a DVD, and I am going to buy it.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, VHS.
Yeah.
But no, that was about as good of a preseason game as you could have asked for the Bears in terms of looking at all phases of the game. I don't know if you want to start off with Caleb Williams and just talk about him.
Yeah.
Or if you want to get to him later. Okay. So obviously the biggest piece of a takeaway from the game was Caleb Williams. He looked awesome. Maybe a hot take. I sent this out in a Snapchat to my friends on Sunday morning, and I said, I'm not even joking when I say this. Caleb Williams showed more in 4 completions of his first preseason game than Justin Fields showed in 3 years as a starting quarterback, and I'm talking as a passer.
I was going to say through the air 100%.
Yeah, I saw more out of Caleb Williams in 4 completions as a passer than I saw in Justin Fields for 3 years. But not to drag the guy, it was just awesome watching Caleb go to work, watching him stay in the pocket, not be afraid to be in there, watching him read through his progressions, watching him look all over the field at the different options he had. The little flick pass he had to DeAndre Swift. At first, it looked like just a normal shovel pass. Then they showed the view of him on the field a little bit closer up, and I was just like, this doesn't feel freaking real, man. Like, holy shit. Like, it feels like this is the guy, like, I always say, like, you watch some teams play in the NFL as a Bears fan, and they always seem like they play in a different league than the Bears play in. I'm always like, how do they play in the same league? This doesn't feel right. well, it looks like we maybe got a guy that can get us to that point. If this preseason game's any indication of how we'll end up looking in the regular season. But that was amazing. And I heard, too, after that he said, like, I just saw gloves and flicked it over there. And he flicked it over there with, like, a perfect spiral where he was, like, 2 yards away. Like, I don't even know how that's humanly possible.
And led DeAndre Swift, too, so he could run with it, which is... So, okay, so you talk about 4 completions, right? Here's what blew my mind about those 4 completions, other than the fact that he had 95 yards and just looked way better than any quarterback I've ever watched for the Bears so far. So let's think about these 4 completions. First one to DJ Moore, just an absolute laser between 2 defenders. Absolute laser between 2 defenders. Really nice touch pass. Second one to DeAndre Swift. Like you said, it was just a little lob, but perfect lob, leading DeAndre Swift so he could take the ball. I think it was 40 yards downfield or something like that.
42.
Yeah, 42 yards downfield. I don't know if the third one or the fourth one was to Cole Kmet, but on this play, he was rolling out to his right, throws the ball across his body perfectly right in the numbers to Cole Kmet. He goes up and gets it. They get another first down. I think that was also on third down. So 3 of his 4 passes were unlike passes that we've seen in a very, very, very long time, if not ever, as a Bears fan. So for me, it was really exciting because, you know, you get that, you kind of get that nervous energy when your quarterback's rolling out or when your quarterback's stuck in the pocket, because I've had 34 years of just shit quarterbacks. So I'm like, oh, here we go. Pocket's going to collapse and he's going to look like shit. No, Caleb Williams looked fucking incredible. And
how about, too, one thing that was kind of cool I saw when he rolled out on one of the plays, I don't think it was the Kmet play. I think it was his first rollout where he was getting out of the pocket and then, like, held the ball out. So he was like, no one's going to touch this. Like, I was like, I've never seen someone do that before. I was like,
that's my dog.
I was like, it doesn't gain us any yards, but I like the mentality. Like, all right, let's go. I'm going to start doing the Caleb Williams and just walking around town holding things out. You know, it's a trend. I'm starting it.
Yeah, he looked ridiculous. The other completion, I think, it looks like it was also to DJ Moore because he had 2 receptions for 27 yards.
And speaking of completions, too, and obviously his final line was 4 of 7. 2 of his incompletions were drops, too. Cole Kmet's was bad. Moore's, you could go either way. He personally, I listened to Cole Kmet's got a new podcast with CHGO, and he had DJ Moore on today as his first guest, and I listened to it, and they broke down Caleb's game. And DJ Moore said, like, I would classify that as a drop on my end. So then you look at, okay, so really he went 4 of 5. Or he should have went, 6 of 7. So that, one thing to consider there too.
And then the other one was a deep ball to Rome where he actually was coaching Rome. I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks yet or not, but he was coaching Rome, telling him, like, hey, go to the back pylon, because worst case scenario, I'm going to throw it back there. And if you can get it, then get it. So just really cool to see him step up like that and coach a receiver who's literally in the same draft class as him. So
you know what's funny about that play too is some Chicago media were talking and they thought he was just throwing the ball away. And they talked to him after the game and he mentioned to them that he actually was looking for Rome there, and he was like, that's really the only spot I put it in was like a small little window where he had a chance to make a play on it. Chicago media thought he was just throwing it away, like that's what we're used to seeing, or what they're used to seeing, And they never thought that, hey, this guy's that good to where he actually is looking to put it where only his receiver can make a play on it there and not just throwing it away, which I thought was kind of cool too. And it's supposedly he's really breaking things down for him after games and after practices and stuff too. I've heard that a lot too. So
he's putting in the work. That's the common theme I've noticed. He's putting in the work, and not only on the field, but he's grabbing the iPads, he's watching these plays back over, he's working with his receivers, he's talking to Coach Flus, and you love that. As a rookie, as a guy who was talked about as much as he was, it's awesome to see. So. I think now is a good time to talk about Hard Knocks episode 2 recap.
We still could talk about the rest of the game too. There was more than Caleb.
I didn't notice. I thought it was only Caleb on the field.
Austin Booker, another rookie.
Yeah.
2.5 sacks. He looked awesome. Ian Wheeler, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about him in Hard Knocks. But I think maybe just one of the biggest talking points that I felt like, besides Caleb, was Velus Jones playing running back. We got a first look at him playing running back in a game. He honestly didn't look that bad. I was surprised.
I'm gonna compliment him more than that. I think he looks awesome as a running back. Now, he's still got his issues with his hands. He muffed a punt, or actually technically a kick, this weekend. He's known to drop passes, but what I love about Velus Jones as a running back is you're using him for his biggest tool that he has, which is his speed. And holy shit, did he look fast out there. So I love the experiment that they're doing with Velus, putting him in at running back, because, dude, he looks ridiculously quick out there. And honestly, this was a last-ditch effort for him because he's not working out as a wide receiver. So here you go, bud. Here's your last hope. And, man, when he broke one run in on the outside, I was like, oh, shit, maybe we're actually onto something here.
Yeah, it's nice for them to kind of see, like, all right, it's not really working out for him at receiver, but, he's got some tools where he can still be an effective player. So, hey, like, maybe let's try him out at running back and see how that goes. And at the worst, you throw him in the backfield with Swift or Herbert or Roschon Johnson during the regular season, and he could be a decoy, or he could surprise you and, you can hand it off to him and he can get you 10, 12 yards just because they're not expecting it. So, definitely got some options there with him, and, so far he's looking good. But, yeah, those were kind of at least the only other things I really thought were worth mentioning from the preseason game. But like I said, all in all, I felt like as a complete unit, offense, defense, special teams, couple field goals by the Bears as well, like everything looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. I was happy with what we saw from the Bears. Now, Tyson Bagent looked decent. I think that's what you're going to get out of him. Austin Reed actually looked pretty nice.
Yeah, he had some nice throws.
And then your boy Brett Ripien didn't really play too much, which is fine. That's probably an indicator that right now he's QB2. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, with other teams, it's the preseason. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. But for experiments like Velus Jones at running back, figuring out who your backup quarterback is, maybe that last wide receiver that's going to make the roster, I think it's fun to watch for reasons like that. So now we can dive into Hard Knocks. I've got really just a couple things that I wanted to talk about. I thought that this episode was a little bit slower than the first one. Maybe it's just because of the hype. Well, and HBO Max had issues loading it.
I was just about to say, first takeaway, do you have it on cable or do you have it on Max? Because I had it on Max, and I was like literally sitting there like you would have thought I lost my wallet. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do right now?
I know. And I was like going on Twitter. I'm like, do other people have this issue right now? And a lot of people obviously were talking about it. But a couple thoughts. They talked a lot about, or I guess they touched a lot on the story of Ian Wheeler.
Really,
I think it's kind of an interesting story. I don't know if it's something that non-Bears fans are really going to enjoy. I mean, being a Bears fan, you like to see who's on your roster, but thinking about this from a perspective of a non-Bears fan, I thought the story's a little on the boring side.
I think it's cool that like he passed up medical school to go chase his dream. It's giving up one dream for another dream, and I think that aspect's cool. And I guess I'm kind of pulling for him to at least make the team.
I am too. I mean, he had 5 carries, 43 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Bills, so he had a really nice outing. I thought it was interesting to see how hard the running backs coach is on him, and he talks about that. He's just a very, very, very mild-mannered guy, but he runs really aggressive and runs really fast, so it's kind of interesting to see. It's almost like 2 personalities. The other thing that, I guess, too, DJ Moore, I love football. I love football. I'm like, dude, I just want to sign you to a lifetime contract. You are awesome. I want you on my team forever. And then I think just seeing the progression with Caleb Williams and watching his growth, watching him lead the quarterback room, talking about how if there's flag football in the Olympics, how he would love to play.
That was cool.
And, yeah, just seeing his personality bloom even more.
I was sitting there thinking, I was like, Mitch would turn off the TVs and not let him watch football because it would be a distraction. You got to block out the noise.
100%.
I was like, now we got a guy who actually wants to play. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's very, very vocal. So I like that. I just like seeing the progression with Caleb Williams. You can see his mental intensity as he's gearing up for his first game. You could tell he was really, really locked in that whole week, both with practices and with pregame stuff. So that was really cool for me to see. But what were your takeaways?
Yeah, a lot of that similar stuff. Definitely, Hard Knocks always kind of makes training camp heroes out of guys, and it seemed like they were doing that with Theo Benedict, and then obviously he went down, probably missing most of, if not the rest of training camp, and now it seems like they're kind of pushing towards Ian Wheeler. So it was kind of just learning more about him. I didn't know much about him. I know some people were pretty happy with them getting him as an undrafted free agent, and we're like, oh, this guy's toolsy. Like, he's not just an undrafted free agent signing. He can be a little bit more than that. So seeing him, get his time, like you were saying, it was kind of a little tough love with him, and it was kind of interesting seeing him struggle in some of those drills, but then when he goes up against the defense, he's just running all around him and right through him. I was like, wow, that guy is really fast. Really, the only other big kind of thing that I noticed from the episode was the relationship between Keenan Allen and Jalen Johnson's pretty cool. Seems like they got a lot of respect for each other, and specifically seems like Keenan Allen's got a lot of respect for Jalen Johnson. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm just drinking the Hard Knocks Kool-Aid or not, but I feel like Jalen Johnson might be pushing like first team All-Pro or something this year, because he just, like, for him to be just going to work on Keenan Allen and stuff this whole entire camp so far, like, that's pretty damn impressive. And then you obviously factor in how he feels about being left off the top 100 list and the motivation he has from that. Like, he might come out and he might be arguably one of the best corners in the NFL this year, and I'm kind of buying into it, and just that nastiness, like dog mentality that he has. So that relationship and Jalen Johnson kind of were really growing on me from this past episode too.
Dude, I have an absolutely ridiculous stat that PFF actually released today. I laughed out loud when I heard it. It's a Jalen Johnson stat. So listen to this. A quarterback's passer rating would have been higher throwing the ball into the dirt each play than targeting Jalen Johnson in 2023.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. And that just goes to speak to the type of DB that Jalen Johnson is, and for him to lock down a guy like Keenan Allen practice after practice is pretty impressive. I think he's taking the top 100 really personally right now, because he was already a really, really, really good player for us and didn't make the NFL's list of top 100 players. And so I think that that's just like the little tiny itty bit of extra motivation that he needed to kind of turn up the notch even more. And he's looked absolutely, he is a Utah U. You're right. He's looked absolutely insane so far in training camp, and I don't think he's played in the preseason, but
he did play last game. He almost had a pick. They showed that in Hard Knocks too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They almost thought it was OPI. But yeah, he looks insane. So Jalen Johnson.
That was funny. That little clip where they showed that, and he was on the sideline saying, like, he was doing my job. He was playing DB.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. I hope he gets more camera time for the last 3 episodes, because he's been really enjoyable to watch.
This is completely off topic, but it involves Jalen Johnson. But I noticed that he just was a guest on Richard Sherman's podcast, and I've never listened to Sherman's podcast, but it's like 45 minutes long, and I was like, that would probably be interesting, so I'm probably going to tune in and see what that's all about. But yeah, his stock and him and DJ Moore, I'm like, every episode I'm liking him more and more. It's just, I'm really glad, especially with how the Jalen Johnson saga went down last year, that they were actually able to keep him, and they extended him. He did say he wanted to be a Bear, but how many times do you hear that? Well, he actually proved he wanted to be a Bear. Now we're really getting to get a little bit more of a look at the guy we got locked up for a while, and I'm glad we do.
Yep, I agree. I was surprised that we were able to lock him down long term because it was looking pretty gloomy for a while there. But
people were even saying like sign and trade, and he just straight up he wanted to stick around.
Yeah,
they just had to get him. They had to get it done, and hey, this contract might maybe look like a little bit of a bargain.
Honestly, if he's playing at this rate, yeah. All right, cool.
Going to be a lot of number 1 jerseys in the stands next year that are going to have tape over them.
Man, if he's playing like this, that it shouldn't have tape over them. People should just actually buy a Jalen Johnson jersey. All right, cool. Well, that's it for Hard Knocks recap. We are going to touch on the White Sox, which pretty interesting right now. So Grady Sizemore, he stepped in now it was 2 games with the Cubs and 2 with the Yankees so far. So tonight's game number 5. And I think he's 1-4 or 1-3 technically right now. So they celebrated his 1 win. They dumped just about everything they could on him, from beer and water and protein shakes. So kind of funny. But what have your thoughts been so far on Grady Sizemore as our interim manager?
Kind of what I expected a little bit. I didn't think this was going to be some magic turnaround for the team, but I did expect them to play a little bit better. It seems like there's kind of a little bit of a new energy around the team, which, you get a younger guy in there, especially a guy that's well respected within the clubhouse and just in baseball in general. Guys are going to want to play for him, and we're starting to see that a little bit. It was nice to see him get his first win. They've been kind of a little bit more competitive, I would say, for most of the games that he's been at the helm for. I think the most interesting thing is, he put Nicky Lopez at leadoff, and I was like, I didn't really think much of it, but Nicky Lopez is playing good now. So maybe he's a little bit more of a baseball mind than I'm anticipating, but I think it's kind of just gone just about as good as you could hope for, and maybe even a little bit better, just knowing the team and roster that he has. But it's been interesting to watch him and just seeing the guys play for him, and just watching his decision process throughout these games. There hasn't really been any move he's made that I've strongly disagreed with. So all things considered, I think he's doing a pretty decent job. I'm not going to say he's going to win the managerial job moving forward, but for the rest of the year, I think he's so far done a pretty good job.
They look more competitive. They're not going to, see success overnight and just start winning games and winning series. It's just not going to happen with this roster. But they at least look more competitive in these games. They were down 7-1 against the Cubs, came back, clawed back, almost won that game.
Yeah, that was his first game, I think, too.
Yeah, it was.
It was, because I remember sitting there watching it, and it just got so ugly so quick, and I was like, oh boy, maybe this Grady Sizemore era is not going to be that exciting.
Yeah, and then they lost 7-6, beat the shit out of the Yankees one night, and then they've been pretty competitive, in most of the outings of Grady Sizemore's run here. So I like to see that. That's really all I can ask at this point. I mean, we suck. We're going to be the worst team in baseball to finish the year and have to pick outside of the top 10. So, that just recaps the year for the White Sox. But
it's not necessarily outside of the top 10. We can get 10, buddy.
Oh wow. I feel so much better. Now, one guy that this has kind of been an interesting story, especially as of late, Kai Busch.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
I haven't personally watched him too much. I've just
watched both starts.
Okay, so he made 2 starts this year. Few different outcomes here for the southpaw, the left-hander. Through 2 starts, he's got 8.2 innings pitched. He's given up 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 12 walks, 5 strikeouts, and he's got a 5.19 ERA. Opponents are hitting 250 against him. Sean, I'll let you go more into depth on what you noticed with Kai Busch because you've actually watched him.
If you could convince him that runners were on base when he starts an inning, he would probably be one of the best pitchers in baseball. Walks are really, really hurting him. Some of the calls he's getting behind the plate, he's getting squeezed a little bit. Obviously, he's a rookie. He's going to have to earn calls, things like that. But really, the biggest issue with him is just walks. He's walked a lot of guys. It's obviously there right in the numbers for you to see. But the most interesting thing about it is he's getting into bases loaded 1 out, or bases loaded no outs, or a runner on first and second 1 out, or second and third 1 out, and he's getting out of these jams. It has been so weird to watch him pitch because if you look at the numbers and you don't even look at his ERA, granted his ERA is not great, but you would think this guy would have a 12, 13, 14 ERA right now. He's letting a lot of guys on base. He's running high pitch counts. I think the first inning's been a struggle for him. I know it was against the Yankees. He's also gone against decent teams. Yankees, Athletics, I think they got 40 wins, but still. And I feel like in both starts, the first inning was a 30 pitch inning for him. So he's getting off to a tough start, but he's able to kind of navigate for the most part from that tough start. We are still seeing an inning here or half inning here or half inning there where he's walking a few guys, but he's not giving up super hard contact. He's getting a lot of infield pop-ups or weak pop-ups. It's just if he was able to limit the walks or maybe even just cut him in half, he would be looking a lot better. But I'm not saying he looks bad. It's just he's really got to start hitting the strike zone more so he can start to get longer outings. I think he's gone 4 or 5 innings, no more than that so far in both of his starts. But I mean, overall, the stuff looks pretty good. He looks fairly poised. I don't know if he's walking a bunch of guys because he's nervous or something, but I feel like he's earned the opportunity to continue to get starts. He's just got to really work on controlling these walks and not letting guys get on base when they don't have to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, because ideally as a pitcher you don't have guys on base, but he almost makes it seem like he wants guys to
I
be
literally
on base.
would tell him hey, pitch from the stretch, there's guys on base to start every inning.
Yeah, that's interesting. Before we dive into, I know we wanted to talk about the White Sox top 30 prospects here. One guy that we talked about during the trade deadline and gave quite a few thoughts on is Michael Kopech. Just wanted to give a quick update on him with his stint with the Dodgers. He's pitched 6 games so far. He has 10 strikeouts. He has 1 walk. He has no earned runs.
How many innings?
Innings pitched 6.1. So at least an inning pitched every time, and then 1 game he had 1 extra out. Nice. So literally no runs, only 1 walk, 10 strikeouts over 6.1 innings pitched. So he's doing what we thought he would, and honestly. Yeah. I wanted to do this not to torture us, but just to say, I'm happy for you, Michael Kopech. You deserve to see success in baseball. You deserve to be with an organization like the Dodgers. So
I hate that he's with the Dodgers, though. I would he's a dude I would love to root for in the playoffs. I cannot root for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, it's what team would you like to see him on that you could root for, though? You know what I mean? That would actually compete for a championship.
San Diego would be cool.
Yeah, they're on a hot streak.
Baltimore.
I mean, Baltimore would be dope. I think that would be ideal. But teams that consistently
Philly?
make a run every year, I don't know, Yankees. I wouldn't want to see him on the Yankees. Phillies. I don't like the
No.
Phillies at all.
But I mean, shit. I thought he was going to go to LA and be great. I said that literally the second he got traded, and yeah, he'll be playing meaningful baseball, and good for him.
Yeah, he's done exactly that. So good job, nicely done, Michael Kopech. Top 30 prospects. This was updated on MLB Pipeline to include the guys that were just drafted this year. Sean, before you jump into the top 30, I did want to talk about one guy that has been getting quite a bit of media lately, as much media as an 18-year-old could get. Caleb Bonnemer. A lot of people are loving what they're seeing from him so far. I don't know where. I think he's with the ACL White Sox.
Their season's over.
But he was the Gatorade Michigan High School Player of the Year in both 23 and 2024. So you knew that obviously the potential was there. But I'm kind of excited to see what comes from Caleb Bonnemer. He's ranked as the White Sox 11th best prospect right now. There's obviously some bigger names towards the top, but it's one name that I've seen come up more and more lately that has me a little excited.
Yeah, he's 6'1", 195. Like, he'll probably fill that out pretty well with him being a professional now. I don't know. I heard he looked all right, and he's playing in like a bridge league, basically. Like, Arizona league's over, but they got guys hanging out and playing games. Like, Jack Caglione started his career there too, before he went off to affiliate baseball. But yeah, seems like he's kind of getting off to a good start. You like to see that out of high school kids because it's a big jump from high school to pros. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll get a little bit of a run with Kannapolis here to end the year. It's a little bit different of a beast now because they changed the way the ACL season runs. Typically, he would be playing for the ACL White Sox. Their season would go till the end of August or right around there. But now that they made it so the season ends like a week after the draft is, so a lot of these guys now have to go play in like these bridge leagues that aren't really covered as extensively as the ACL would be. So hoping that he gets out to maybe Kannapolis, or not maybe, he would get out to Kannapolis. He wouldn't go to Winston-Salem, and we can start seeing playing affiliate ball with some of the younger guys we got. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how these guys start to perform. I mean, like you said, it's kind of an awkward transition. One thing to note that I saw that happened while we were recording this podcast, both guys are coming back to play-by-play next year, Schriffen and Steve Stone. And
who announced that?
It's all over Twitter, all of the White Sox beat writers. And on top of it...
Honestly surprised.
Same. I would have loved to see Steve Stone gone and wouldn't mind Schriffen in the process. But on top of it, the White Sox are decreasing their season tickets by 10%. What it costs to go to a game because they can't get fans to show up, and that's what they deserve. So cost of season tickets is going down for White Sox fans. There's a couple other things that are happening in the media right now, like the name of the park might be changing because Guaranteed Rates name changed. So there's been some talks about that. But yeah, season ticket costs are going down by 10%. Now I'll stop interrupting you on White Sox top 30. Do you want to dive into what you noticed there?
Yeah, I would love to, Kevin. Thank you. I honestly am surprised that Schriffen's going to be coming back next year. I thought he kind of flamed himself out really quickly, but what do I know? I'm just a podcaster. So, White Sox top 30, according to MLB Pipeline's updated now that draftees are in there. Hagen Smith slotted into number 3, so number 3 prospect in the White Sox system there. I heard he did pitch in that bridge league, but no one got any statistics other than he looked good. Is basically what was said.
Thanks.
So, yeah, so really riveting information there. I'll just kind of go down the list a little bit here because there is some shuffling around with this on MLB Pipeline. It's been a while since they've updated it, so there has been some movement. Most notably, George Wolko He's now the 7th rated prospect in the White Sox system. He's having a pretty good year out in Kannapolis. Brooks Baldwin jumped up to 8. Mason Adams, he's a pitcher for now the Knights, mostly been with Birmingham this year. He jumped up to 9. Kai Bush is 10. He's kind of been around 10 for a little bit. Guy who we just talked about, Caleb Bonnemer, 11, like you said earlier. Jacob Gonzalez, he dropped to 12. He was previously top 7 maybe. Brian Ramos dropped as well. He's at 13. Our new guys we traded for, so in order, Gerald Perez is 14, Alexander Albertus is 15, and William Bergola is 16. I believe that's where they slotted him in right when we traded for him, so no changes there. Mm-hmm. Left-handed pitcher Blake Larson, another guy we drafted this year. He is number 19. Nick McLean, outfielder we drafted, 24. Casey Sauke, or Sauk. Don't get lost in the Sauk. He is rated 25. And that marks it for the guys we drafted. So we got, let's count them out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new prospects added to the top 30. Top 100, we did get Hagen Smith in there too. Hagen Smith is 32nd overall prospect in baseball. Who's ahead of him? Let's find out from the draft class. J.J. Weatherholt at 19. Jack Caglione at 18. 2 guys we could have drafted. Travis Bazzana, the number 1 pick at 13. Charlie Condon, the number 3 pick at 12. And that's it, folks. So White Sox get one more top 30 or top 100 guy, and they get, 5 guys in their top 30.
Yeah, and there's a couple guys that fell too. So Peyton Pallett, preseason was ranked as the White Sox 10th best prospect, now at 28. Pretty rough. Jake Eder was the 8th best prospect for the White Sox going into the season, now at 23. And I think it just kind of speaks to the seasons that they're having in the minors right now, especially with Peyton Pallett. He went from a starter. He had over a 7 ERA as a starter, and then made the shift to more of like a relief bullpen guy, and has actually seen some success there. But you're not going to be a highly touted prospect as a relief guy, so not surprised to see him drop. So yeah, it's something to monitor, especially after the off season, because like we've said before, guys are going to get traded, so this list will continue to shift. Last team to talk about here, Blackhawks. Sean, the Blackhawks prospects are going to play in the Tom Kurvers Propspect Showcase, which means they're going to play the Blues on September 13th and the Wild the next day on September 14th and the 15th. Do you want to maybe mention some of the names that you see on the roster?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting group. Not quite sure if this is going to be televised. It might be a thing that's like on Blackhawks.com for people to watch. But the biggest name that we're going to get to see here is our first round, 2nd overall pick, Artem Levshinov's going to be playing, so that'll be exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting prospects here on this Blackhawks team. We got Colton Docks playing. Gavin Hayes is playing. Nick Lardis is playing. We got every reporter's favorite prospect, Marcel is playing. Frank Nazar will be playing. That'll be fun. Samuel Savoie, he got hurt last year, so he missed most of the season. So he'll be playing. Landon Slaggert made his NHL debut last year after coming up from Notre Dame. He'll be playing. Recent draft pick AJ Spelisi is playing. And then defensively, they got Nolan Allen. He's a pretty high up prospect. They got Ethan Del Mastro, obviously Levshinov, and then in net they'll have Drew Comesso playing, and then they'll also have another goalie, so it won't be all Comesso, but interesting names. Hoping that they'll be accessible games to watch, especially with Levshinov being there. So he'll get his first little taste of, won't call it professional hockey, but we'll call it professional hockey. His first little taste of it, and he'll be seeing likely some of the Blues' best prospects, some of the Wild's best prospects. So it'll be fun.
I mean, I think just in terms of size and speed, right? I think it's probably comparable to, actually playing in the NHL or close to it. So you'll have to fill us in on what you notice from there. And honestly, if we can watch it, I'll probably tune in myself. So
yeah, I would guess there will be either a Twitter live stream or like a Blackhawks will stream it on their website. I want to say they did this with Bedard last year, and I don't know if it was just because it was Bedard, but I want to say 2 of the 3 games were viewable. And I think they were like on social media of some sort.
Okay, cool. I'll look out for it. Awesome. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We will have some more preseason recap next week. And then, like Sean said, we'll start to make some predictions on week 1 of college football here soon. So tune in next week. Don't forget to like, share, follow us on social media. Shoot us a message if there's anything you want us to talk about. But as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see y'all in a week.
Go
Take
Bears.
care.